Hello everyone and welcome back to Prestige Reef. Although the hobby is easier than ever, there is still this myth that it's something extremely difficult to do. Some of that myth comes from existing hobbyists enjoying telling other people just how hard it is, because it feels good when people think you're a real life Aquaman. Not gonna lie, I've been guilty of this myself. The rest of the myth comes from the horror stories of people that try for a short period of time, fail and then give up. My question to you is, did they fail because the hobby is hard, or did they fail because they lacked the preparation required before they got the tank? In this video, I'm going to show you 5 tips of how to improve your success from day 1 before you even get the tank. Number 1. Research. Although the title of this video suggests this is something you only do at the beginning, the best hobbyists never stop learning. That's what makes this hobby so addictive. There is so much to learn that it's impossible to know everything, which means there is always room to grow, and growth is what keeps us interested. Although this is controversial, I believe too much emphasis is put on learning the nitrogen cycle, that some newer hobbyists believe once they've understood that, they're good to go. This is not even remotely the case. If you're planning to keep fish, but also especially coral, understanding how to test and adjust salinity, calcium, alkalinity and magnesium, in my opinion, is way more important and is something you need more long term. From a beginner perspective, that might sound complicated, but if you can read the instructions on the test kit, you'll soon realise it's not too hard. Equally important is researching the fish you want to keep. Its nutrition requirements, adult size, reputation for disease and success rate, and even if it's reef safe. The amount of people I see buying a fish that they had just asked the name of, which means they didn't even know what it was, boggles my mind, and I've lost count of how many non-reef safe fish I've seen sold to reef tanks. Number 2. Find a mentor you can trust. There is a big difference between finding a mentor and speaking to your local fish shop, with the main one being a mentor has no incentive to sell you anything. I'm going to let you in on a few little secrets. Coral food does have a place in the hobby, but you don't need it when you buy your first coral frag. I have an ammonia test kit for the coral farm which I've used once and it's unlikely I'll ever use again. A reverse osmosis unit is nowhere near as complicated as it sounds and will save you hundreds in the long run. And did you know that some very commonly used products have an unbranded version which are a fraction of the cost? I myself was one of these people. 15 years ago when I first started, I left my local fish shop with a single soft coral frag and a bottle of liquid coral food, which would eventually go on to both pollute my tank and expire before I could possibly use it all. I now know that that coral was photosynthetic, which means it didn't need feeding and I wasted my money. There is no doubt that this hobby has become more expensive over the years, but are we making it more expensive than it needs to be? If you can't find a mentor, I offer a face-to-face video call consultancy through my website for a small fee. This is available to anyone in the world. I have no doubt that many of you will think the concept of paying to learn from someone else's experience is a waste of money, but let me give you an example of how it literally pays for itself. A new client who is very new to the hobby informed me they had been told to buy a high-end piece of testing equipment which only tests ammonia. That piece of equipment costs £75. It is unlikely they will ever use that piece of equipment again after the initial cycle. Had they spoken to me before, I would have advised against it and could easily have saved them £75 on just one purchase. What surprised me even more was they didn't have any other test kits. Surely that £75 could have been spent more wisely on a whole range of tests rather than just one parameter. Over the years, you'll probably spend a lot on the hobby, and potentially waste a lot too, so a small fee at the beginning to get you on the right track isn't as counterproductive as you might think, and I can almost guarantee that if you're just entering the hobby, one call with me will save you a lot of money, time, heartache and frustration in the long run. Number 3. Set yourself a plan and a goal for your tank. This is helpful for all aspects of your life, but especially with your tank. This plan should be as detailed as you can make it, with everything from your equipment list to confirming all the fish you want, any corals you'd like to keep, and my original one even had the order I would add the fish and the different foods I'd feed on what days. The reason a plan is so useful is because it will keep you on the straight and narrow. You will forever be tempted by a whole array of amazing fish and coral, but if you've got a specific plan for your tank, it will stop you from getting tempted and making impulse purchases that you'll later regret. Like a clown tank. 3 times. When I say go, I mean find a selection of other people's tanks that you love, keep pictures of them and try to recreate them yourself. These pictures will keep you motivated, and you should take some comfort in knowing that that hobbyist has already likely overcome any future trials that you may face, and if they can do it, why can't you? Number 4. Establish a routine and stick to it. Money and research alone isn't enough to make this a success, and although it's not hard, it's a commitment and there is some labour involved with these animals. Every day they require our day-to-day care and attention. When the hobby is going well, that labour turns into a labour of love. However, when it's not going to plan, it becomes a chore. The best thing to do is get a routine and don't deviate from it. If your plan is to test every week on a Sunday, make sure it happens no matter what. What usually happens, at first people set out with good intentions, and then gradually those testing days get further and further apart. The glass is cleaned less and less frequently, and then before long, that pretty glass box is looking an unsightly green. This is when the love for the hobby starts to fade, or because you didn't have that routine that you stuck to, or you weren't truly committed from the beginning. My first tank was at my parents' house, and I was told in no uncertain terms that if it ever looked anything less than pristine, they would get rid of it. And trust me, they meant it. This didn't allow me the luxury of letting the maintenance slide for a few weeks, and probably has contributed to the success which I've had to this day. Number 5. Accept that you'll need to be patient. There is no rush. Impatience is an absolute killer in this hobby, and it is without a doubt one of the most common reasons that people fail. There are obviously exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, especially at the beginning for new hobbyists, reef tanks are like works of art that take many, many months to become properly established. Our tanks are semi-closed ecosystems which can very easily be tipped off balance by any sudden changes. Fortunately for me, when I first started I had virtually no money, which means I could only purchase a fish once a month, which was actually pretty helpful for me because it stopped me from overstocking the tank, and the fish I was buying I knew I really wanted because they were part of my plan, and it allowed the tank to readjust itself to each new purchase. Right, that's it for today guys. All of these things can be the difference between joining me in a hobby which has given me an incredible amount of enjoyment over the last 15 years, or a very expensive failed attempt, which will go on to contribute to the myth that this hobby is almost impossible to do. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Please feel free to comment below if you have any questions. If you did enjoy it, why not click that like and subscribe button. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.